Many of you probably know about the War of 1812, but did you know there was another brutal and bloody war in Canada's history? The Beaver Wars, also known as the French and Iroquois Wars, were between the Huron and Algonquin tribes, backed by the French, against the Iroquois, who were backed by the Dutch and English. The war was fought over until the beaver pelt trades in the Great Lakes area. The French only traded with the natives who converted to Roman Catholic faith, while the Dutch and British traded rapidly with any natives who had pelts. By 1640, the Iroquois trapping areas were being depleted of beaver. The Iroquois wanted to expand their trapping area and control the entire beaver fur trade. The next best region for beaver furs was north of the Great Lakes and the area today known as Northern Ontario, which was controlled by the Huron. The Iroquois also wanted to stop the French fur trade and redirect it to the Dutch. First, they had to wipe out the Huron nation. It was a great time to strike because the Huron were being weakened by diseases being caused by the French Jesuit missionaries. When the explorers first arrived in North America, there were between 50 and 80 million native people. By the 1600s, there were only 10 million native people left. The main killers of the natives were smallpox and other diseases brought by the Europeans. In 1649, the Iroquois launched a huge and bloody attack on the Huron. Only a few hundred Huron managed to escape. The Iroquois also captured and skinned alive Father Jean de Breuf and killed Father Gabriel Lamont from a Jesuit mission. After decimating the Huron, the Iroquois focused their attacks on smaller native tribes and fur trading outposts. The Iroquois' goal was to force the French into trading with them. In 1660, Adam Dollard and 22 French and native allies made a heroic stand against 700 Iroquois at Long Sault. While Dollard and his men were killed, the Iroquois decided not to attack Montreal, who was better defended and had many more men. By 1663, when there was little of New France left, King Louis XIV of France sent 1,300 troops from his Cardinal-Salieres regiment to New France. They burned and destroyed Iroquois villages and forced them to sign a peace treaty with the French. This then forced the Dutch out of the North American fur trade. In 1666, the Iroquois and the French again went to war, but the Iroquois were once again defeated and looked for peace with the French. For a few years, there was peace until the British arrived and started to trade with the Iroquois. War between the natives and the French, English, and Dutch continued until the early 1700s. Most of the battles and confrontations were about the fur trade and control of the territory. In 1701, a treaty was signed between the Iroquois and the French called the Great Peace, putting an end to the fighting. The Beaver Wars had a large impact on the colonies of New France and cemented the French and native alliances right until this day.